Hi everyone, thanks for having me here today. Thank you, Nicola, for inviting. I hope you will like the story I have to share today. The story is quite personal, actually, and something I like to talk about, especially to parents who are not really happy their kids are playing games. Sometimes they think it's mostly waste of time, but my career and the things that I have done really taught me that it's not a waste of time. And throughout my career, I recognized that a lot of things that had happened to me in the gaming very nicely correlate to the things you will see in the business environment. And today I'm going to show you a couple of lessons that I've learned, that I recognize, but there are many more, and I'm sure you can relate, especially if you have played games like World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Warcraft 3. I hope there's some of you in the audience, because most of the references are going to be about these games, because I've played them. I played them on the competitive level, especially StarCraft and Warcraft 3. I competed in the national championships, etc. But since having a Commodore 64, which my father bought to me, I immersed myself into games and gaming. And basically they lost their son at that point, because I was just so focused on games, and I'm sure most of you also can relate to this. I don't really like to talk about myself that much, but for the purpose of the lessons that I would like to share, I really need to express some points today. So on the left side of the picture, this is my gaming cafe that I owned. It started in 2001. I was 18 years old. And actually, David told me that his visit to my gaming cafe was actually gave him an idea of the business, and he obviously raised it to a whole new level, which I could just have dreamed of back in the days. But basically, doing a small business is like any other business. You need to hire, you need to budget, you have problems with many things, and many similar problems you actually experience in your everyday business life. After 10 years of owning several cyber cafes, basically, I finished the college in the meantime, and my parents asked, like, okay, Dario, you should now build a proper career. This is not a proper career, so I listened to them. I applied to a bank, and I spent 8 years in banking, in IT. I saw corporate life, and I liked it pretty much back then, but it was impossible for me to run both things, the cyber cafe and doing banking. So basically, I shut down the cyber cafe and focused completely on my career in corporate. 8 years fast forward in the banking, and basically I wanted to shift jobs a bit. There was a company in Mostar which was actually producing games for the betting and gaming industry, and I thought to myself, okay, this is probably the next step I want to go, because it's most similar to the things that I have been doing or liking throughout my life. And back then I joined basically at a very entry position, just to switch the job and go from bank to something else. Because I was bored, and 4 years ago I basically become a CEO of the company. Today it's 350 people company, and it's 2 years ago we have been majorly acquired by Sportradar, which is a NASDAQ billion valuation company. They provide data for the sports industry, and probably you know them a lot. They have Mark Cuban and Jordan as one of some of the shareholders, and Densoft is now part of the Sportradar group. In the middle picture is actually me playing against our COO, Hearthstone, and we are in our new HQ, and we have full-blown gaming room, something I really wanted to have in our new building. And there's PlayStations, there's PCs, and people can obviously during work hours go and have some fun. And this is where actually our team who won the competition this year is practicing all the time during their free time. With this With this introduction, actually, it brings me to the first lesson that I want to share, and it's the importance and the value of diverse and balanced team. So for you who played MMOs, you probably know that when you create a party, you need to have several roles in the party. So you need a tank, you need a healer, you need a DPS. Yes, sometimes you can create a party of people who are all DPS or all heroes, all healers, but usually this doesn't work well, and for the most of the fights, it's better to have the balanced team. It translates very well to the company as well. So basically, a lot of us fall into a trap of valuing people based on the things that we like or how we are. And it's really important as a leader to not fall into this trap, because you should not judge the fish by how it climbs the tree. You should actually really examine and evaluate people for what they excel at. So you're going to have various people in your company. Some of them are hard workers. They have messy table. They like to, just put their heads into a task and just finish it, not care too much about other things. You have administrators who are all about processes, who like to follow the procedures, and you need them. And you have those entrepreneurial type of employees who have many business ideas, but are usually, not that clean. They don't like documentation. They don't like to follow the processes. They like to break them. And then again, you have those introverts, extroverts. You have integrators who are always calling people for coffee and bringing pizzas, etc., etc. So really, when you're forming a company, when you're forming a business, try to be as diverse as possible, because you know what they say, if you have a hammer, each problem looks like a nail. But with a balanced team, basically you're going to assess the problems and issues from various corners and quite probably solve them much better than you would with the likely-minded people. You cannot have 11 Ronaldos in the team, no matter how good they are. So my next lesson is that you cannot over-prepare, and here we have Illidan Stormrage and his famous quote from Warcraft universe, that you are not prepared. For those of you who, again, played MMOs, you know that you usually have scheduled raids at about 8 in the evening, and there's like 30-minute windows where you have to come in front of the instance. You need to be prepared. You need to have potions flask. You have to understand the fight up front. The guild leader usually sent the videos or tactics were discussed on the forums. And I learned that we usually underappreciate people who came on time and who were just prepared for the fight. Usually those star players who were usually 5 minutes late, or they were topping the DPS meters and healing meters, but they were not so well-behaved team players, are usually more valued than those who are just show up on time, who show up for the meeting in the company on time, who read the memo before, who are taking notes, and who are actually helping others to explain what needs to be done. So if you want a balanced team, if you want a long-term team, they usually say it's better, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, then go with a team. And valuing and recognizing people that actually value your time, it's really, really important. And please pay attention to it, because sometimes it's really hard, and you usually focus on the most loudest and most and those who just shine and excel at certain things, but company needs these much more. You cannot over-communicate. I remember a fight in Serpentine Caverns in Warcraft. It was Lady Vash. It was a really complex fight, and basically we had to make macros which would message the player that you throw a ball at, so he knows he has this ball and then he needs to pass it across all other players. You cannot hold it long, and basically, and we were using obviously Ventrilo at that time, and communication was essential. And this translates as well to the business world. On this picture, it's me. I didn't make the graffiti, but it was COVID time. Basically, at one point, because we were really dominantly focusing on retail, we lost 95% of our business, and company was on the verge of just breaking and disappearing. And we had no revenues. It was really hard to give out salaries. We had to reduce salaries. People were leaving. We had to fire people. So it was a complete shock. But I remembered those situations, you know, when you're in any game and you just, you know, shit happens. And then you just communicate it through with your team players. Okay, somebody else will going and cover up for the guy that just died, or let's do this, let's do that. And you remembered how important it was to keep communicating even though the shit hit the fan. And here it really did. And the one thing that the employees really, really appreciated was the communication. And you know, it's hard for everybody, but communicating what's gonna happen, what are the good news, what are the bad news, how we are overcoming this, what they can expect. It's really, really important, and they really appreciate it. And we ended up tripling in next years after the COVID, and this was a moment actually I became the CEO, because I don't know, it was tough time, and I just accepted the challenge. Recognize the grit. So for you who watch Make Love Not Warcraft episode of South Park, you will remember the situation when Eric Cartman and his party were not able to beat this guy who was just had no life and beat them all and destroy them. And so they had to stay in a forest, kill boars, millions of boars, just to level up and actually have a chance against the guy and finally defeat him. In business, this translates to grit, which my personal opinion is that I have to value this above all traits of a person. And this is basically those guys who just do not give up. So those are the guys who persevere through the toughest times and who accept the challenge and push forward even though at the time are desperate. When new employees, so I have like a procedure when new employee comes in the company, we sit for a couple of minutes and they ask, how did I did it? And I said, you know, I accepted hot potatoes, and with time the potato became bigger and bigger and hotter, and I just kept accepting them, and basically there's no progress in comfort. So for some reason, and I think my gaming past helped me in understanding that, you know, things will get harder and harder as you progress, and the only way that you can actually win is that you try hard and overcome this, and by the next time you're just going to do it easier and easier, and there will be new problems and new issues that you need to face, and you need to persevere. So really, if you're an owner of a company or plan to do so, or you're just a team lead or whatever, try to recognize those who are just going to help when it's hardest, because you're also going to need help. You're also going to have moments when you feel down, when you feel desperate, and you're going to need these people. Choose officers wisely. So the guild becomes bigger. You were the guild master, and you know, there's now 50, 60 people in it, and then you understand, yeah, hopefully you understand that you cannot do it all alone. Somebody needs to take care of the guild bank, somebody needs to take care of recruiting, somebody needs to do advertising, marketing, promoting the guild, doing social, etc., and basically it's the same in business. As the business grows, it's really a shame if you do not understand that you're going to need help, and you're going to need strong people who are actually going to take over most of the tasks from you. A paradox in management is that in order to be irreplaceable, you need to make yourself replaceable as much as possible. And leaders are like a prism. Basically, you throw in some light into the prism and it shines wider and wider. So when you're choosing officers or team leads or any sort of leadership, when you're in position to do so, pay attention to those people who you choose. You want to choose those who relate to you, who understand the core values you have and the things you want to share, and translate that to the rest of the company. So you cannot work with 100 people. And when they ask me, like, how do you lead 350 people? I said, I don't. I speak with 10, 15 people on a regular basis, and then they talk with another 5 or 6 colleagues, et cetera, and this is basically how the business scales. And if you choose the first group, right, they're going to be self-sustainable and they are going to help you grow the company. So this is really important. Yeah, you will make mistakes, but that happens, and just rinse, repeat, and do it again. So you remember that feeling, and I'm sure most of you have it, when you just queue in for a game and there's this anxiety that hits in, even though, especially if you're higher ranked and there's much at stake, that you're going to lose. And if you're high ranked and it ranks you and it pairs you against somebody who's lower than you, you can lose so much, win so little. Basically, it's the same in business. When you're a CEO of a company, the problems distill into you. So, and the whole company is looking at you, looking at your moves. Who are you sitting with? What are you doing? What's your behavior like? And finally, how you make decisions. And as Michael Jordan actually said it, the reason why I'm the best, because I missed 9,000 shots. And this is how actually you have to behave as a CEO as well. You need to make shots and you need to make calls. You cannot be afraid that people will judge you by the things that you're deciding or doing, because the worst thing that can happen to you as a leader of the company is not taking shots and not moving the company. And as long as you have more wins than losses, it's fine. But it's really important that you do not take people's mistake for a bad thing. Because if you start blaming and shaming and telling people that, okay, you made a mistake because you were doing this and that, this is the worst thing you can do for your company. You want them to take the shots, to make mistakes, but actually move forward and keep the rapid movement. So there's a real psychology of this, and if you didn't know, and especially it hits smart people who have imposter syndrome and think to themselves, oh, why am I here? There's so many smarter and better people than myself. Really just know that this thing is real and there's a way how you can deal with it, and accept it that it's going to happen in business as well. Keep focus and stick to your niche. There was a guild called Nihilum in Warcraft. They were really prominent in PvE and they were like top guild, and I adore them. But one day they accepted a challenge from a PvP guild named Millennium to have actually a televised show of a PvP match. And they were obliterated, and it was really bad for their guild because it just exposed the weakness and didn't do anything good for the guild. And I think after a while they just broke up. So what business, especially founders, tend to do wrong is that they think they can repeat the success they had multiple times. And yeah, there's some examples like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, who are just outliers, who are just guys who do amazing things, but not everybody is them. And it takes time, it takes courage, it takes timing, it takes luck, it's not really easy to make a good business, and you cannot do it always. But what companies sometimes do is they think they can enter some other players' playground easily and win. And usually, most of the companies fail. So, just like in StarCraft, when you're expanding and you're choosing your next base, basically your natural base is probably the one that's easiest to defend because it's so connected to the main base. And if you're expanding business, try to think about the expertise and the people you have. So you cannot go to completely different business where you do not have the expertise, you do not have people, but yes, you must expand at some point, but try to be as careful as possible because these things can cost you. And actually in business, most of the time you really have to say no. So people throw many ideas at me, many things I need to pay to give money to have new projects, etc., etc. And really it's hard, it's not something I want to do, but I must say, no, we cannot do it. We focus on what we're doing the best. We need to excel at this because somebody else is going to overcome us and just become better than we are in what we are doing, which is really, really scary. Do not miss on the opportunities. They are rare. Basically, I used to main tank for the guild of Warcraft, which I played in. And one day the guild leader approached me and said, Dario, would you like, my nickname was Milk Cow, would you like to because I was a big male Tauren warrior, and he said, would you like to be an officer in the guild? And I said, yeah, let me think about it. And I was studying, I had a girlfriend, I had so many things to do, and I thought, imposter syndrome kicked in and a lot of questioning about myself, and I declined the offer. And from this moment on, I hated myself for the rest of my World of Warcraft career because they named the guy who I thought inferior to myself team or officer for warriors, which basically ultimately ended up in me quitting the game because it was just painful. And though he was a great guy, but I hated myself for not accepting this because I anyway was playing as much as I would, and it really wouldn't make any difference. But I've learned that when the founder of the company Offensoft offered me to be CEO, I accepted, even though I had 1,000,001 question and doubt in my head. But I also remember what Richard Branson said when he said, if somebody offers you a great opportunity, you first accept it and then learn how to do it. So they are really rare, great opportunities. Yeah, you're going to have many doubts, but just accept them and learn how to do later. And last but not least, for those of you who played Warcraft 3, they might recognize this picture. It's basically when Arthas succeeded his father by killing him. It's really hard for people, especially successful people, to think that they are going to be replaced one day. And leaders and owners and founders fall into a trap of thinking that they are irreplaceable. And while I'm not a huge fan of saying that everybody is replaceable, yes, we are all replaceable, but the company is not going to be the same when I leave. So my take on this is that you have to plan that one day you're going to be substituted, that you're going to leave, that you're going to have a promotion or whatever, and you need to plan for it and actually train somebody to take over instead of you. And they say you're not a leader if you did not train another leader. You've all probably seen it in your managers. They think they're irreplaceable. They think the company will stop when they go away. It just won't happen. And you don't want a bad king to succeed you. You want somebody who you really trust and who will keep the values that you installed the company for the ongoing generation to take the seat instead of you. And believe me, that day will come. But in the meantime, invest in yourself, in your mental health, in your physical health, because the people need that. They need the most performant leader because their very existence kind of depends on it. They invest their time, their skills, their knowledge, but most importantly, time into this company and into yourself, and they trust you. So you really need to be at top performance to actually be a good leader. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your attention. I hope you learned something and that you enjoyed it. And I really want to, there's so many things that probably all of you can share from the gaming that relates to the business environment. And these are just some of those that I could have done today. Thank you.
I did not expect this many World of Warcraft references. As someone who has like 15,000 hours, this was amazing for me. All right, we have a couple of minutes for some questions, so please raise your hand if you have some questions for Dario. Yeah, I'm coming there.
One quick question. How do you kill that which has no life? Meaning, I am sure you know the reference, but meaning once the COVID started, you said you lost almost 95% of the market. Could you tell us, like in a short story, what's the exact things you've done in order to bring it back to, I think you said like 300% of the increase. So COVID hits and you think, oh shit, it's all done. Yep. You come home and what do you think and how do you go from that exact moment and be as short as you can, because we don't have that much time, but be as specific as you can. Okay. So I think that's the big story that we can learn from.
So there's many things, but the things I can think of is keep people busy. So one of the things that we did was we had an action or like a company movement that we called Move Online, which meant that for free we actually offered all of our clients who were retail dominant to transfer their business online. So we opened the websites and for them and did everything basically for free because they did not have money. And usually we would charge setup fees for this. But we didn't. We just helped them out as much as possible to bring the business online, you know, at least in some fraction of percentage instead of completely losing it. I think collecting money was a huge issue as well. We had to work with the clients to actually. So we had so much money stuck with the clients because they didn't pay and they were also afraid of paying and working with them and talking with them and, you know, just getting some money out so you can pay salaries. That was really important. And good thing about Tensoft is that we worked in 45 countries around the world. So basically COVID was kind of moving, you know, in circles. So when it was the hardest in Europe, Africa was open. Then when it was Africa, the Latin America, so it was Europe. So we were constantly, you know, coping with this in this way that we just focused on those areas that are open at the moment and try to squeeze it as much as possible. But partnership with the partners and employees, it was kind of, you know, the crucial thing, and just the communication and being honest and trying to do the best, because we work on a revenue share model. So basically the clients want us to survive as we want them to survive as well. So it was kind of a mutual fight with them together.
Thank you. A few more questions. We have a few more minutes left if someone wants to ask Dario while he's here. We don't get an opportunity very often to ask questions from and get answers by someone who has so much knowledge, so don't be shy. Yeah.
I mean, I have to ask this. What was the atmosphere like when the guys returned with the trophy back home to Mostar?
for those of you who are going to compete next year, it's not going to be easy because we invested even more. And for the winning team, we actually, purchased the new equipment, gave them more work hours to actually spend on it. So we are preparing for the next year. And actually, it was a really big hype in the company. People were watching the games as they were broadcasted. And next year, hopefully, I think we're going to have a couple of buses coming here in Zagreb. So so I think, the company really lived around this and we enjoyed it very much, and we're definitely going to stay for the next years.